best friends are supposed to always be there for you, right? The ones who held you while you cried after a breakup, who took the ugliest, most unflattering selfies with you and still laughed like it was the best moment ever. But what if your best friend started believing that your blood had anti-aging properties? Sounds insane, right? Yeah, that's what I thought too. Until she, my once best friend, injected my DNA into her own face, moved into the building across from mine, wore my old college hoodie, and whispered into my ear, "We still have unfinished business." In today's story, you'll follow a journey that starts with innocent friendship and descends into twisted obsession, extreme beauty treatments, and a confrontation that, if I hadn't fought back, could have ended in blood. This is a true story about the girl who used to be my closest friend and why she ended up in a psychiatric facility for trying to extract blood from a newborn. Chapter 1: Friendship and a Haunting Beginning. Ashley and I used to call ourselves the ugly duo. We went to high school together, always sitting in the corner of the classroom, doodling and talking about old movies. I never felt bad about how I looked. I knew I wasn't the type of girl who made heads turn, but I was okay with that. Ashley, on the other hand, was different. She'd stare at the mirror for ages, comparing herself to girls on Instagram, then sigh. I'd often tell her that we were beautiful in our own way, but I knew she never really believed that. Everything started to change when Ashley discovered a YouTube channel featuring Korean influencers. Within just a few weeks, she had memorized the complicated skincare routines like she was prepping for finals. One day, Ashley showed up at school with noticeably brighter skin and eyes that looked bigger and sharper thanks to new makeup techniques. She didn't transform into a TikTok hot girl, but this subtle kind of beauty turned heads Pinterest pretty, as Ashley called it. For the first time, I saw Ashley smile as she watched how others reacted to her. Her Instagram photos started getting more likes. Every time we hung out, Ashley would pull out a Sephora bag and show off her latest purchases like she was unwrapping presents. I looked at my friend, feeling a mix of amusement and happiness. "I'm glad you're finally seeing what I've always seen in you," I told her. Ashley hugged me tightly and called me the best friend in the world. Ashley's family was just as thrilled. Her parents kept praising her transformation and newfound confidence. Our mutual friends even said she looked so much more radiant. For 6 months, I thought my best friend had finally found something that made her happy. But what I didn't know was that this was only the beginning. Chapter 2: Entering the Realm of Extreme Therapies. At first, I thought Ashley was just enjoying the fun of beauty care. What's wrong with that, right? Who hasn't obsessed over a skincare product or tried a makeup hack from YouTube? But Ashley didn't stop there. Around the 7th month, she started talking about things I thought only existed in horror films. Vampire facials, a procedure where they draw your blood and inject it back into your face to stimulate cell regeneration. I thought Ashley was joking, but she wasn't. She talked about it with the kind of fascination you'd expect from someone who had just discovered the formula for eternal youth. Then came placenta. Not kidding. Ashley started sending me articles at 3 a.m. about beauty treatments using stem cells, sheep, placenta, and even umbilical cord blood. She messaged me, "This is how Hollywood stars stay young. The beauty industry's been hiding the truth from us." At first, I figured she was just reading too much Reddit. But one day, I dropped by Ashley's place unannounced. She wasn't in the living room. I called out, no answer. When I opened the bathroom door, I saw Ashley standing in front of the mirror, one hand holding a syringe, the other trying to draw blood from her arm. I screamed, "What are you doing?" Ashley looked at me thrilled like she'd just won the lottery. "I'm making DIY serum," she explained. "The stuff out there is full of chemicals. Homemade is pure. Organic, I've done my research." The bathroom had a small table covered with test tubes, tiny jars, alcohol cotton balls. It looked like a miniature lab. I tried to tell her this was dangerous, that this wasn't skincare anymore. It was something else entirely. But Ashley just laughed and said I was overreacting. The weeks that followed were a blur. Ashley kept experimenting with new treatments, meeting people she called independent aesthetic experts. It sounded fancy, but I knew it was just a sugar-coated way of saying unlicensed practitioners. Every time I saw her, her face was swollen red, sometimes even peeling. But Ashley didn't seem worried. She looked at herself in the mirror and said, "Inflammation is a sign of cellular renewal. The body's transforming." That's when I started to get genuinely worried, especially after one day I opened her fridge to grab some ice cream and saw an entire row of tiny glass vials, each labeled carefully with marker day X type A plus experimental formula, number 3. Ashley saw that I'd noticed, but she didn't seem embarrassed or try to hide it. She even proudly showed me a notebook where she documented all her research results. I still remember the way she called it, a cellular anti-aging journey. But things only truly crossed into the realm of the disturbing when I started noticing that something was off about the trash in my own house. Chapter 3, Boundaries Shattered. The Infant Incident. At first I was just confused. Used sanitary pads had disappeared from the trash. I lived alone, no pets, no boyfriend staying over. The first time I thought I was just misremembering. The second time I felt a chill. By the third, I started suspecting something no one should ever have to suspect Ashley. Part of me didn't want to believe it. But then one afternoon while visiting her, I quietly checked her bathroom. In the drawer among jars of serum and tubes of cream, I found a Ziploc bag containing items that were unmistakably the very ones I had thrown away. I nearly vomited right there. When I asked, "Are you insane?" Ashley just shrugged as calmly as if she were explaining a recipe. "You threw it away. I'm just making use of what you're wasting." I should have told someone. Her parents. The police. I thought about it all, but then fear crept in. Partly because I had no solid proof, and partly because I no longer knew who I was dealing with. Instead of confronting her, I started pulling away. Fewer texts, short replies, ignoring the photos Ashley sent, selfies of her swollen face, bloodshot eyes smiling with captions like "almost there" or "pain means recovery." I thought I was slowly cutting ties, but then it happened. That day, I was babysitting for a neighbor, a newborn just a few weeks old. Ashley knew I was there because I had mentioned it before. I didn't think she would show up, but she did. She knocked on the door holding a tray of cookies, smiling brightly like nothing was wrong. "I missed you," she said, "and I just wanted to see the baby for a bit." I hesitated, but then thought, she just wants to see the baby. It's harmless. I went into the kitchen to warm up a bottle. When I returned to the nursery, the air felt frozen. On the changing table, Ashley had laid out medical tools, syringes, alcohol wipes, gauze, even infant restraint straps. I froze. Ashley was drawing blood from the baby's arm. The infant was screaming, face red, writhing in pain. Ashley, on the other hand, was calm, like she was brewing tea. Newborn blood contains the highest concentration of growth factors, she said like a biology lecture. Just a little from the heel, same as in hospitals. I lunged toward her. Ashley blocked me. "Don't ruin this breakthrough," she pleaded. "You don't understand. This is the peak of my research." By that point, 2 vials were already full. She was preparing the third. The baby's skin was turning purple, breath shallow. I snatched the baby from the table as Ashley struggled to open the next vial. My hands were shaking as I dialed 911, and while the call connected, Ashley stood next to me, her face flushed, one eye nearly swollen shut, whispering, "I injected it. I feel different now. I'm younger, right? You see it, don't you?" I didn't respond. I just held the baby growing weaker in my arms and prayed for the sirens to come in time. The paramedics arrived shortly after. They took the baby away while Ashley rambled on about natural stem cell therapy and the chance to save humanity from aging. Ashley was arrested the very next day. She was charged with assaulting a child and possession of illegal medical equipment. The baby survived, but had to undergo a blood transfusion and remained hospitalized for several days. I thought it was over. I thought I could finally sleep again after all those nightmares. But I was naive, because 5 years later, Ashley came back, and in her eyes, I wasn't just an old friend. I was the one who ruined the greatest journey of her life. And this time, she didn't return to apologize. Chapter 4. Released from prison and the watching begins. I thought I had closed that chapter of my life. I didn't look up news about Ashley, didn't follow the trial, didn't care about the date of her release. I just wanted to forget. But someone like Ashley, someone who believes you are the key to the greatest project of their life, doesn't disappear that easily. I was standing at the mailbox in my apartment complex when my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number, no name, no intro. Just a single photo. Ashley. Her face filled the screen, distorted, swollen, covered in clusters of tiny red pinpricks. Her left eye was completely swollen shut, and her skin looked so tight it seemed ready to split. Underneath was a single line I never stopped researching. I dropped my keys and mail. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't even unlock the door. The moment I got inside, I threw my phone onto the couch and screamed for Jake, my boyfriend. He was lounging on the sofa, eating chips, watching TV. I shoved the phone in his face like someone had just sent me a corpse photo. He looked at it, frowned, then shrugged. Your old friend got out of prison and wants to talk. Maybe she's changed. I stared at him in disbelief. She used to draw blood from infants, Jake. He shrugged again. I'm just saying, maybe don't stress too much. Maybe she's trying to turn her life around. I didn't have the energy to explain. All I knew was this was only the beginning. The next day, I went down to the parking garage during my lunch break to grab my gym bag, and there she was, Ashley, standing right beside my car. She was wearing a gray hoodie pulled over her head and her face. It wasn't a human face anymore. It looked like something that had been stretched, pumped, and then left to rot. One cheek was swollen like a burn blister. Her left eye was still shut. The right one locked directly onto mine. She smiled. A twisted, lopsided, ghostly white grin void of warmth. In prison, I perfected the technique she said casually, like she was talking about a grocery trip. The guards let me experiment. I traded soap for medical tools. I injected myself, tracked the responses. Sometimes I even used other inmates' blood. I stepped back. She stepped forward, her voice still sweet. You know what prison blood has special energy. The pressure in there makes cells develop in fascinating ways. I was genuinely terrified. She was still standing there when one of my coworkers walked by. And Ashley, she waved at them like a neighbor. Some of them even waved back. When I told her to leave, she tilted her head, looking at me with the one eye that still worked. We still have unfinished business. That night, I told Jake everything, hoping this time he'd understand. But he was just scrolling on his phone. I practically had to snatch it from him to get his attention, and that's when I saw the messages. Sender, Ash, a long conversation. Ashley had been texting Jake for weeks, asking about me, about my job where I lived, even if I still used that same brand of organic tampons. Jake scrambled to explain, I just thought she was worried about you, wanted to reconnect. She seemed really remorseful. I didn't say anything. I just knew Ashley wasn't remorseful. She was watching me. She was testing formulas on her own body. And Jake, he had just become a source of information for someone who once drew blood from a newborn. At the time, I didn't know yet. She had already moved into the building across the street. That's right. Ashley had been living one window away from me for 3 days, and I had no idea. Chapter 5. Infiltration and Manipulation. I found out that Ashley had been living across from me for exactly 3 days, thanks to a moving invoice I found in the trash of her building. Here's how it happened. After that parking lot encounter, I started getting this strange feeling. Every time I stood by the window watering my plants, I sensed someone from the building across the street watching me. And then the next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through the trash of the building next door. And just like something out of a classic psychological horror movie, I found it a moving invoice with Ashley's name on it. dated exactly 3 days prior. She had been living across from me, right there, for 3 days. And I had been carelessly drawing the curtains, watching TV, washing my hair, even arguing with my boyfriend. I ran straight to the police station to file a report. The officer asked, "Has she threatened you, hit you, blocked your path? Made any threatening calls?" I said, she said, "We still have unfinished business," and moved into the building right across my window. The officer leaned back in his chair, sipping on lukewarm coffee, and said, "Living nearby isn't a crime. Record everything. If she breaks into your place, get it on video." I walked out of the station feeling both hopeless and ready to punch someone. But I'm not someone who gives up easily. That night, after checking the door lock 4 times, I decided to start documenting everything: the texts, the photos, the strange knocks at midnight, even how my hair had been falling out more than usual while shampooing. And then it happened. I had just finished washing dishes when I got another text from an unknown number. Ashley again. No words, no emojis, just one photo. It was a picture of the coffee cup I had used that morning at my favorite cafe, a white ceramic cup with my lipstick mark circled in red ink. She wasn't just watching me at home. She was following me into the street, tracking me closely enough to know what shade of lipstick I wore. I told all this to Sarah, my best friend from college. She invited me to a yoga class to cleanse the mind. Less than 5 minutes into the session, Sarah leaned over and whispered, "There's a new girl in class. Says she's your old friend. Black hair, puffy face. Looks like a botched lipo job." I didn't need to ask for her name. Ashley. She didn't need to talk to me. She just needed to exist. Ask a few casual questions about my class schedule, then vanish. She didn't need to break in. Didn't need to send threats. Ashley manipulated in a different way, with a smile that said, "I'm just an old friend," with a few soft-spoken words to my mom over the phone. "You know, she's changed. She's colder now. Maybe she's just jealous." That's right. My mom called me afterward, saying she had just met a wonderful woman named Mrs. Chen, Ashley's mother, at her book club. She said Ashley had learned her lesson, had earned her GED, and even gotten certified in therapy counseling. I was about to cut her off to tell her about the blood that needles the infant, but she interrupted me. "You can't live in the past forever. Everyone deserves a second chance. Even someone who used to draw blood from newborns." Mom, I couldn't say anything else. And then that night, as I was watering my plants by the window, I saw her, Ashley, standing right in the lobby of the building across the street, opening mailbox 4B. I couldn't breathe. Ashley wasn't just watching me from afar. She lived across from me, eating, sleeping, breathing less than 20 meters away. She was reconstructing my life, step by step. Chapter 6. Counterattack and the Underground Network. After that night, I saw Ashley opening the mailbox of apartment 4B. I knew I couldn't keep just sitting and waiting anymore. I started collecting screenshots of messages, the photo of my coffee cup with the lipstick mark circled in red, the hallway camera footage showing Ashley hovering near my trash cans at 3 a.m. I saved everything into an encrypted folder, backed up on 3 separate cloud platforms. I named the folder "When Your Ex-Best Friend Wants Your DNA." Sounds funny, but it didn't feel funny at all. I spoke with the apartment management. They seemed concerned until they heard the name Ashley Chen. "Oh, she seems a little eccentric." A little. I sent them the camera photos, the clip of her digging through my trash, the recording of my mom telling me, "You're being too harsh." And then a glimmer of light. Sarah, my yoga friend, invited me out for coffee. I told her everything, from the blood to the tampons to the infant incident. She went pale. No awkward laugh, no skepticism. Just one question. "So, do you have proof?" I showed her everything I'd collected. She was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I have an idea." That night, the group chat Yogang was born. At first, it was just 3 of us. Me, Sarah, and another girl from yoga. Someone who had once heard Ashley asking odd questions about people's vitamin routines and detox plans. The next day, 2 more joined. The fifth person said she asked me if I was on my period in the locker room. Right after I changed out of my gym clothes, the network began to form an unofficial defense group. We agreed if anyone saw Ashley, they'd snap a picture log, the time and location. If someone heard anything, they'd report it in the group. I stuck a mini camera on my window pointed at the building across the street, and it started working. Ashley wasn't hiding anymore. She left a gift at my door, a homemade serum jar with a handwritten label, formula from cell group B, source fresh. Fresh from where I took the sample to a friend who works in a lab for testing. The results, human DNA was present, but not enough to identify the source. Ashley wasn't just watching anymore. She was harvesting. A few days later, Tom, an old coworker from my previous job, texted me. A girl showed up at the company happy hour. Black hair, puffy face, same perfume as you. She knew all about your current project. She was repeating her old cycle: get close to my friends, learn how I live, then imitate. But this time, I wasn't alone. Sarah had gathered a group of yoga classmates to help monitor. They rotated shifts, watching security cams at nearby studios, coffee shops, and corner stores. One person caught Ashley standing by a trash can near the yoga studio wearing nylon gloves. Another spotted her at a pharmacy buying syringes, gauze, and a portable mini fridge. We gathered all of it. I sent a compiled report to the building management: photos, videos, eyewitness accounts. The next day, they posted a notice. Warning: suspicious behavior reported in the complex. Residents are advised to avoid contact and report any encounters immediately. Our first victory. Ashley knew. I was certain she knew. But she didn't respond with anger. No banging on the door. No screaming. She simply slipped a note under my door. A page from a journal titled Cellular Memory Extraction, Subject N. Below that was a drawing of several syringes, each labeled with my name. Ashley believed my blood contained memories, and she wanted to extract them. I don't know how to explain that to a normal person, but my friends, they understood. They had seen it. They had experienced it. And for the first time, I didn't feel alone in this madness anymore. Chapter 7, Nearing the Edge. After everything that had happened, I still clung to one belief: that Ashley was just trying to scare me. That if I kept my distance, collected enough evidence, involved the law, she would back off. But no, Ashley doesn't play by the rules. One morning, while watering plants on my balcony, I saw her helping Mrs. Chen, the elderly neighbor from the floor below, carry grocery bags upstairs. Mrs. Chen smiled and thanked her. And Ashley, as always, gave that gentle smile. But what made my breath catch was the hoodie Ashley was wearing, my old college hoodie, the one I'd thrown away months ago. She didn't just want to live near me. She wanted to be me. That night, I called Tom. He confirmed Ashley had shown up at one of my old company's gatherings, wore the same perfume I used, asked people about my preferences, habits, even about my menstrual cycle. I couldn't tell what was more disgusting: that she was trying to replicate me, or that society still believed women were just overreacting when they felt unsafe. I talked to Jake again. At first, he was still like, maybe you're just overthinking things, until he unlocked his phone and saw a message from Ashley. Does she still use the same organic tampons? I remember she used to hate the synthetic cotton smell. Jake went pale, and for the first time, he believed me. I got a call from a strange landline number. A woman's voice. Hello, I'm the former nanny for the Johnson family, the family of the infant Ashley had once drawn blood from. The woman told me before the incident Ashley had volunteered at the daycare. She asked about each baby's blood type, how they were fed, who was breastfed, and who used formula. She took notes, tracked things, and sampled saliva from pacifiers. This wasn't just obsession anymore, this was research. Sick, twisted research. And I unintentionally had become the #1 subject of her experiment. Ashley started showing up more at my doorstep holding a container of soup. She said, I heard you weren't feeling well. I made your favorite tomato basil. Jake stood between us, but I caught a faint metallic smell, like dried blood in an operating room. Ashley smiled. Just a little extra iron. For nutrients. I didn't say a word, just quietly snapped a photo of the soup container. On the label was handwritten, "For N only," followed by strange symbols I couldn't decipher. They looked like gene codes. That night, I didn't sleep. I monitored the camera feed and backed up all evidence to USB hard drives in the cloud. And then she struck back. 2 officers showed up at my workplace. They escorted me out of the office in the middle of the day, in front of all my coworkers. "You're being investigated for stalking and harassing a citizen named Ashley Chen." I presented the full case file. They were skeptical until I showed the video Ashley rummaging through my trash at 2:57 a.m. wearing my hoodie. One of the officers handed me a business card. "Keep documenting everything. You're building a solid case." I came home completely drained. Jake started packing to move in with me full-time for protection. Sarah gathered the yoga friends again. She printed photos of Ashley, taped them up in the studio locker room, and warned everyone to be careful. One person said, "She wiped her mouth on my water bottle and slipped it into her bag." Another said, "She asked for the hair from my brush to make a pillow." I thought she was joking. No, no one's joking here. I'm being hunted. Not metaphorically. Ashley is using every connection she can to collect biological samples of me, hair sweat, dead skin, saliva. I'm the raw material for something she calls her cellular cocktail. She truly believes that my blood holds the key to achieving eternal beauty. At this point, I had 2 choices. Keep enduring this and wait for her to slip, set a trap, and I chose the second. Chapter 8, The Final Trap. I was too exhausted to keep being the prey. Ashley could make me feel watched, harassed, isolated. But she forgot one thing: I wasn't the same girl who once sat quietly listening to her gush about cheap beauty products and dream about becoming the perfect version. I had friends. I had cameras. And this time I had a plan. I posted a status on social media, a simple public post. No tags, no hashtags. "Tomorrow I'll be visiting Clinic N for a minor procedure. Hope it goes smoothly." I knew she would see it. She read everything I posted. And I knew she wouldn't be able to resist. The next morning, I went to the clinic with Jake, Sarah, and Mrs. Chen. Mrs. Chen, the same woman Ashley had once deceived, now held a tablet in her hands, filled with video clips she'd secretly recorded over the past weeks. Ashley lurking, sneaking into the building with a medical bag. We arrived early. Security cameras were set up everywhere. The police and clinic security staff had already been briefed. And just as predicted, at 9:23 a.m., Ashley arrived. She wore a white lab coat, carried a medical kit, and walked straight into the parking lot like she was a staff member. No disguise, no subtlety. Every move was caught on camera. She sat down on a bench out front, opened her bag, and calmly inspected each syringe, each vial of blood, each test tube labeled "Subject N cells, trial dose." 3. I stepped out the main entrance, shoulders, back eyes locked onto hers. Ashley froze, then smiled as if this were a fated reunion. "You came," she said. "I've prepared everything. We can begin." I said nothing, just raised my hand. Right then, security and police swarmed in. Ashley thrashed and screamed, still gripping her kit tightly. "You don't understand. She has a unique gene. Her blood reacts to foreign stem cells. I was so close, so close." She rolled up her sleeves for everyone to see, arms covered in needle marks, bruises oozing welts. "You see, I've injected cells from over 30 people, but only hers. Only hers responded." I stood there unblinking. "You ruined my research 5 years ago. Now I just need a little. One vial. You owe me no. I owe nothing. Especially not to someone who once drew blood from a newborn." Ashley was handcuffed, still raving about the key to immortality, about a gene sequence that activates eternal collagen production. But no one was listening anymore. Because this time, I didn't just have a story. I had video. I had witnesses. I had a case file thick enough that the attorney had to print it in volumes. Ashley was charged with stalking, unlawful entry, endangering public health, and possession of unlicensed medical equipment. At the hospital, tests revealed that her body contained DNA from at least 19 different people. She had been injecting herself with a biological cocktail for years, resulting in swelling autoimmune responses and widespread infection. And among all those DNA samples was mine. Because Ashley had secretly collected them from my hairbrush, my water bottles even used tissues. She wasn't lying. She had literally made me a part of her body. But I hadn't. I never gave her permission, and I would never forgive her. I signed the lawsuit, and I signed a permanent restraining order not just for myself, but for every friend, family member, and even Mrs. Chen. As for Ashley, she didn't go to prison. Psychiatric experts determined she suffered from severe paranoid obsessive delusions and required compulsory treatment. She was transferred to a high-security mental health facility. No more medical kits, no more blood vials, no more identities to mimic. All she had left was herself and a body that she had destroyed with her own obsession. Chapter 9: The End and the Aftermath. 2 years have passed since the day I stood outside that clinic facing Ashley for the last time. I still remember the look in her eyes when they cuffed her, not hatred, not pain, just one thing, pure obsession, that twisted version of friendship she'd kept alive in her head for all those years. But I won't lie, I still glance over my shoulder at the grocery store. I still lock the door 3 times before bed, and sometimes just because of a familiar scent or a passing silhouette. My heart still skips a beat. I've started therapy. The first doctor I saw told me the most dangerous thing isn't the person stalking you. It's when you start to believe you deserve to be stalked. It took me a very long time to understand that, but one day I did. I didn't deserve to be turned into a resource. I was not a research subject, and I certainly didn't owe Ashley a single drop of my blood. Today I live in a different city with Jake. Yes, Jake is still here. He witnessed the darkest part of my life and didn't walk away. In fact, we've learned to communicate better, to set boundaries, to stop avoiding the uncomfortable conversations. I now work for an organization that supports victims of stalking and harassment. I never use my real name, just a simple alias N, because there are people like me, people who thought they just had one bad encounter when in reality they were targets of obsessive, dangerous, and disturbingly persistent individuals. And Ashley, she's still at the high-security psychiatric facility. Medical reports say her physical condition has stabilized, but her mental state remains highly complex. She no longer has access to medical tools, no more volunteers, no more Reddit posts about stem cells and collagen regeneration. All she has left is a world she created herself, a world where I will always be the final piece to her life's grand experiment. I still get periodic updates from my attorney about Ashley's condition. Not because I want to know, but because I need to know. The restraining order remains in effect, permanently. And every time I sign a renewal notice, I think of Mrs. Chen, the woman who once unknowingly let Ashley in, and later became the one who stood firmly to protect me. We all make mistakes, but once you've seen the truth, never look away again. I used to think I was weak. I used to feel crazy, dramatic, like the problem girl who couldn't let the past go. Now I understand survival doesn't mean forgetting. It means continuing, even while remembering. I live. I tell the story. And if you're hearing this now, remember this. If someone ever makes you the object of their obsession, don't stay silent. Because if I hadn't spoken up, if I hadn't collected every piece of evidence, if I hadn't dared to name the madness for what it was, I wouldn't be here today telling you this story. If you think this only happens in movies, I wish you were right. Ashley is a clear reminder that sometimes the most dangerous person isn't a stranger on the street, it's the one who once knew your home Wi-Fi password. I'm telling this story not to entertain, but to remind you if someone makes you feel unsafe, if your gut is screaming, something's wrong, don't ignore it. Don't let anyone tell you you're too sensitive, too paranoid, or making things up because you're jealous. Because when I thought I was losing my mind, she had already crossed the line where madness begins. And if someone is watching you, do what I did. Document. Record. Speak up, because silence only makes people like Ashley stronger.